How can you make sure that you adopt the best possible animal for yourself from an animal shelter? That is a question together with some others that we are going to discuss in this video today. So first things first, animal shelters are a terrible place for animals. It is a very unnatural environment. Animals are forced to live with each other, even though they don't like other animals. They are forced to possibly be close to other species. They might not see them, but they might smell them and hear them, like cats hearing and smelling dogs. They might be exposed to frequent strangers, which a lot of animals are not comfortable with. And they might be exposed to a lot of different smells and noises, like, for example, disinfectants or dog barking that they are not comfortable with. So housing animals in a shelter should really be very short term. Long-term shelter housing is actually already considered from 2 weeks onwards. So a lot of shelters unfortunately have animals having to stay longer, but we really want to avoid that. So the best possible way is obviously for shelters to try to find adopters and good matches, and that's where you come in. Let's assume you walk into a shelter to find your perfect match, and you walk into the cat room and there is immediately one cat that says hello to you. That cat chose you, right? No, it's furthest from the truth. This cat chose everyone that walked into the room. When you think about it, some cats are more outgoing, some cats are more comfortable, some cats are more dominant, right? But that doesn't necessarily mean that that cat chose you. It just means that the cat was very comfortable in the unnatural environment it is housed to come and say hello to you. That doesn't mean that other cats that didn't immediately say hello, or cats that might hide away, or cats that might not want to play with you in the shelter setting are less friendly or less of a good match for you. It's quite the contrary. So what we do have at ARC is a so-called foster to adopt program, where we really encourage adopters to look beyond that first cat that greets you and really spend some time with the animals that don't show well right away. So animals that don't show well are those that hide away, that don't want to play, that don't want to engage, maybe even show a little bit of aggression when you try to touch it. This is because these animals are not comfortable in this very unnatural environment, and therefore they are not showing their really true personality. So take some time in the shelter to meet animals, but then also some animals you will never meet properly because they will not be able to show their real personality in that setting. So what we do have is a so-called foster to adopt program, where you can decide to take an animal as a foster animal, meaning the ownership is still with us. You are fostering the animal for us, usually for 2 weeks, during which you can really get to know the animal and see how is this animal in a more natural environment at home without other animals, with only one person or maybe only your family. Most foster to adopt animals are never returned because it actually ends up being very successful. So many people say that the animal completely changed as soon as it got home. Maybe it changed after a week or two. Maybe it needed a little time to adjust at the home. But literally everyone says that the animal that they took in as foster was completely different than the animal that they saw in the shelter. So I really would like to encourage you to look beyond that first cat or the first dog and really give a chance to some of the other animals as well. In the end, the animals that don't show well are the ones that end up in the shelter for a very long time. And quite often a shelter gets backlogged because it ends up having to house a lot of animals that don't show well because the easy animals immediately got adopted out. So an animal at some point, a shelter at some point reaches its capacity and is unable to continue taking in new animals because it first needs to find homes for all these animals that are not showing well. What I also would like to mention is shelters are terrible for animal health. That is physical health, but also behavior health. Animals that are housed in a shelter for more than a couple of days are much more likely statistically to get sick. And animals that are housed in a shelter for more than 2 weeks are much more likely to show behavior problems or behavior deterioration. So it is incredibly important that animals are really only temporarily housed at a shelter and are moved into an adoption or foster home as soon as possible. So if you're considering adoption and if you really want to help an animal in need, consider taking your time finding the right match for you. So that means you might visit the shelter or our cafe, our adoption cafe, several times, but that also means that you might be willing to open your door to a foster to adopt scenario. In the end, if you realize after these 2 weeks that the animal you chose is not a good match, you can return it. That is not a problem. These animals have much better chances in foster to adopt scenarios than if they do not even get that chance in the first place. So if that really happens, that you do not think it is a good match, please don't feel bad about it. Select a different animal and try again. Okay, thank you so much for listening. I really hope this was a valuable insight for all the adopters and potential fosters among you. If you would like to schedule an appointment with us or with the cafe, please go ahead. If you are just watching the video to learn more about sheltering, thank you so much. Please feel free to subscribe and like. Thank you. See you next time.